welcome to Patty's Aquatics. Now, in past videos, I had started doing tank tours of doing individual tanks and breaking them down to every component and how it all works. I still plan on doing that with each tank, but today I want to have an overview fish room tour of my fish room and do kind of a brief update of what's going on in each tank, how they're doing, and so on. So, if you're ready, let's get it on. Let's start the tour with my 4 29-gallon tanks that are on this wall, my concrete brick stands. This is my 29-gallon Japanese pink ENDLER tank. This was the first tank I ever did a video on a full tank tour on YouTube, so go back and check that out if you want. It also houses my Blue Dream shrimp that I picked up at Aquashella in Chicago back in 2022. Now this tank is dirted, it has a gravel cap, and it used to have an Amazon sword in it, and it grew so big with that dirted tank that it loved it a lot, but my problem was it blocked so much light out. I could barely see my fish or the shrimp in there, so I took it out. It created a giant mess, but I like the outcome. I like the light that's everywhere. I can see the fish everywhere now, so the dwarf sage is taking off a heck of a lot more. I also added a piece of mapani wood with my Anibius that was in my 75-gallon tank upstairs. Then I also have some wood in there that I picked up along the shores of Lake Michigan. So really happy with this tank and the way that it's going. So yeah, this is my 29-gallon pink ENDLER tank and Blue Dream shrimp tank. Moving on, this is my Neolampergallus quadropunctatus tank. It is a African shell and rock dweller. Now this is a tank I also did a tank tour on previously, and this also isn't the only tank that was in my fish room that had filtration. Now as of about 2 days ago, I took that sponge filter out of there, and it didn't have filtration because this was the only tank in my fish room that did not have plants. Well, I changed that. I put in some guppy grass, and I also put in some dwarf sagittaria. Now I'm hoping that this will help combat any nitrates. I didn't really have issues to begin with, but if you can look very closely, my dwarf sage is already sending out runners. After about 2 days, I think that's pretty phenomenal. Now, this tank itself is thriving, and these fish are doing great. And I did notice the other day that a lot of the younger fish started huddling up near the top. And the reasoning for that is, I believe, is we've got babies in this tank now. This pair right here, they're digging out a nest there, so I'm assuming there will be babies coming from them anytime now. And then the other 2 breeding pairs in this tank currently have babies already. As you can see right here, that's the first batch right there. So they are doing great. I love these fish. They are just phenomenal looking with those yellow mohawk dorsal fins. But yeah, Neolampergallus quadropunctatus. I love this tank, and I'm hoping that this no filter on here will help them thrive as well and continue my no filter fish room. Next up is this 29-gallon tank that houses my high fin blue coral VARIATUS. I got these at a swap meet back in February, so that's about 6 months ago. As you can tell, they are really starting to colonize and breed quite a bit, which I am very ecstatic about because I really like the coloring of this fish. Now, also, as you can tell, this tank is very overrun by guppy grass. I got a little sliver of it in the bag with these VARIATUS, and it has taken over, and I kind of like that look. Also in this tank is my Anibius barteri, which used to be in my 75-gallon puffer tank upstairs, and lots of dwarf sagittaria. Also, a lot of green hair algae, which came initially from the high lighting in here before the plants took off. I kind of like the look, but things are going to change with this tank. I have decided that I'm going to gut this tank and dirt it, and be taking the fish out, then putting them back in, so it will be rescaped also then, obviously. And that I will all record within the next few weeks and then be coming out to you. So this is my 29-gallon high fin blue coral VARIATUS tank. Now this is the last of the 29 gallons on this rack on the wall. And it houses my red dragon guppies. I picked these up at a local fish store about 2 years ago. They caught my eye, those males, especially with that metallic blue and red tail. I thought they were just phenomenal looking. So I had to have them, and they have been breeding nonstop since. Now, as far as the tank, I absolutely love the way that it's scaped right now with all the dwarf sage in the back growing very tall. Then I have some pearlweed in there, some pogo stem enceladus octopus, and I also have a crypticorn tropica, I believe it's called, in there as well. Things are going great in this tank. Now, my question with this one is I wanted to kind of redo this one as well as the other 29 to be a dirted tank. Now, the problem I'm having with this one is I really like the way the plants have grown in with this one. So I'm kind of on the fence with it yet right now. I'm planning on probably going dirted with it, but I want to just wait it out a little bit and see. But this is my 29 gallon red dragon guppy tank. Next, let's move on to my 4 oddball tanks I have on this rack on this wall, and we can start with my 20 long. This tank houses my Taiwanese orange and green double sword guppies. Now, the story behind these is when I originally got them, my local fish store listed them as a Japanese double green ENDLER. Well, someone contacted me via Facebook, where I sell my fish locally, and told me that they're the ones that sold them to this local fish store and that they were actually these guppies, which is good to know because I didn't want to advertise incorrectly. Now, obviously, they look like they got some ENDLER mix in them, so I'm sure it is some type of a hybrid, but they're a very cool guppy. I love those double fork tails on them. They're just, I don't know, they really spark out at you. I really like it. Then also in this tank, I have a boatload of cherry shrimp. Now, I have sold probably 100 of them out of here already within the last few months, so there are still plenty left. And then plant-wise, it is just densely covered with dwarf sage. It's got some moneywort in it. It's got a crypticorn, I think it's Wendenti, I believe. And then got some java moss on a rock somewhere in there too. But yeah, this tank is got hundreds of babies. All those guppies, they just breed like crazy. And then also the shrimp. So this is my Taiwanese green and orange double sword guppy tank and cherry shrimp. Now this is my 10-gallon tank. It's also dirted with a sand cap. It holds my daughter's BETTA. She got this fish. She wanted one bad. I told her she could put it in my 10-gallon as long as I'm able to plant it and dirt it, and then she could put her little decorations in there, because obviously I am not a Frozen fan or Sesame Street or Paw Patrol, but I let her do what she wants in this tank with those decorations as long as I can keep it heavily planted, which I like. Also in here are a mix of a guppy and I think it's 2 guppies, and I like to do it as a little breeding project in this tank. I'll put an ENDLER or a guppy of this strain and that strain in this one just to kind of see what comes out of them, since the BETTA in here does not eat them or harass them. It's also loaded with a bunch of shrimp, and then as you can probably tell, the darkness in this tank, that is because if you look up above, are my red root floaters. They are just crazy in here. It's like one big bog of plant. It's like one big form. They're growing out of the water on top of each other. I find it completely and utterly exciting to see what this is going to happen with these. So that's why I'm letting it continue. I prefer to have light in my tank, but these red root floaters are crazy. So I can't wait to see what happens with it. But anyway, this is my 10-gallon tank. It houses my daughter's BETTA and my little guppy breeding project. Now this is my 20 high that houses my koi swordtails. Now I got these out of my 75-gallon puffer tank. I originally bought them at my local fish store probably like 2 years ago, and they bred, and these are basically the byproducts of them. See, when I had them upstairs, my puffer would eat the breeders as they both have babies, and it was getting a little frustrating because I actually wanted to try to breed them. So I opened up this tank to put them in there. As you can tell, this tank is very heavily planted with Valsinaria in this tank. And as you can probably tell through all my tanks, I really like the natural look. I want it to look as if you're under the water looking at scenery, and that's basically what I go for. And as you can probably tell too, there is a lot of cloudy water in this tank currently. I've battled cloudy water in this tank on and off over the last year or so. It had been perfectly clear, but I think what happened was I pulled a lot of Valsinaria out along the glass, and it just kicked up a lot of crap, and that wound up putting a bunch of bacteria into the water column and creating this bacteria bloom. So I will just let it sit for as many weeks as it takes for it to clear itself, and we'll see what happens. I've cut down the feeding too as well with all the flake food and stuff in there to try to kind of get the nutrient level down as well to kind of help kind of kick it out of there. But this is my 20-gallon high, dirted tank, sand cap, koi swordtails. There's a few shrimp in there too, but yep. This is my hexagon tank. I'm not 100% sure on the gallons of it. I got it used. I would assume it was in the 29 gallon tops. But regardless, this is my cherry shrimp tank. It is a dirted tank with a gravel cap. And I have a big rock pile in there. Now, the story of it was I dirted this tank. And I tried putting plants and stuff in there, but I had a previous light on it that was not very bright, and I was getting nothing to grow. So I got frustrated and put a big rock pile in the middle. And then wound up getting some ENDLERs after because I wanted some other fish in there swimming besides my shrimp to kind of look, and all the green and black ENDLERs I have in there, they took off. And then I got a new light, and things started to grow. So things will be changing in this tank down the road. I plan on taking that rock pile out of there and putting a sand cap over the gravel cap and then replanting it with maybe a couple small rock piles just to see if I can get some plants to actually grow, because that's kind of what I was looking for in this tank to begin with. Also in this tank is Java moss on top of the rocks, and I got a bunch of hornwort. This is my hornwort tank where it grows nuts. I just pulled a lot out of here before I just filmed this, so it is kind of bare right now, but it does grow in. So this is my hexagon tank, we'll say 20 gallon, that holds my cherry shrimp and my black and green ENDLERs. This is my 2.5 gallon nano tank. It currently holds a breeding project I'm doing with a male pink ENDLER and then 2 female red dragon guppies. I redid this tank a couple times. It also has all these redwood floaters on top, but this one's going to be changing again. I plan on changing it into a tiny nano dirt tank, but I probably shouldn't tell you that because that's going to be an upcoming project. Anyway, so that's what's going on with this one. Not much really to talk about with this one. I've done a couple videos about it already, but like I said, the redwood floaters are growing like crazy on here, and that was my purpose. I plan on keeping some of them in there yet, but yeah, this is my 2.5 gallon nano tank that it currently holds my breeding project of a male pink ENDLER and 2 female red dragon guppies. This is my 100 gallon Rubbermaid stock tub. Like I said in the past, this used to be outside, but I decided to keep it down in my fish room this year. It houses 4 goldfish and 1 koi. 2 of the goldfish were my daughter's back when she got them in high school as feeder fish from a school project, and she decided to keep them. She kept them in a little fish bowl, and then when she left for college, I took them and put them in one of my fish tanks and been growing them out ever since. They're probably currently at least 5-6 inches long, and they are just thriving in here. They love to eat, I'll tell you that much. This tank also is a big plant tank for me. My redwood floaters, as you can see on top, that's where I primarily grow them for selling. I sell a lot of my plants and some of my fish locally through Facebook, and this is my main tank for those. I also have a big Amazon sword in here, and it has shut off runners with a bunch of baby plants, which I plan on selling in an upcoming swap meet. Also, I have a few clippings of different plants in here. What I do is if I trim plants in one of my other tanks, I'm not sure what I want to do with them yet, I throw them in here and let them float till I decide if I'm going to use them or sell them. And then as far as other fish in this tank, there are some random guppies or ENDLERs that get tossed in here once in a while that swim around. I I have a few Corydora, and I have some albino bristlenose plecos in here as well. This tank is doing very well for a no-filter tank with these goldfish. I don't have any nitrates really to speak of, but yet these plants still grow like crazy. But yeah, this tank is doing great. I'm loving having the pond look inside the house. I'm not going to lie, my daughter loves feeding the goldfish every night when we come down here. And I like watching them kind of hit the surface of the water going for their food. It's very entertaining. But anyway, this is my 100-gallon Rubbermaid stock tub that holds my goldfish and koi. Well, that's my fish room. I hope you enjoyed that tour. Now, I will also be doing an update on my 75-gallon tank upstairs. A lot has progressed since I've redone the rescape, and I want to update you guys all, and it's doing great. Also, my summer tubs outside, I do an update about every 2 weeks or so, whether it be in my short videos or my normal videos. So if that interests you, this tour interests you or my fish, please consider going to my channel and hitting that subscribe button. But if you do, make sure you hit that notification bell because you don't want to miss any of my upcoming content. Well, with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you next time here at Patty's Aquatics.